Okay, so the chapter picks up where the last one left off with Shiki, Rebecca, Wise, and Homura coming face to face with the four Dark Stars, and pretty much is setting up the 4v4 fight between these two groups. Now, we find out before the fight starts in this chapter from Pino that each of the four Dark Stars surpassed the original four Shining Stars in power. So this is kind of Hero setting up the idea that this is actually going to be a pretty difficult fight for the EZ crew. But like I said in my last review, I really doubt that any of these four Dark Stars would actually stand a chance against Shiki, because just 2 chapters ago we found out that Shiki, just a few months prior to this entire thing going down, was already almost at the same level as LZ. And in the last 2 chapters when the two of them were fighting, we found out that LZ and Ziggy, despite what I originally believed, were pretty much on par power-wise. I originally thought that Ziggy would actually outclass her, but no, they actually were going back and forth pretty evenly. And actually, I'd probably even give LZ a slight edge over Ziggy, because she was actually going to defeat him in that fight if it wasn't for Ziggy actually playing on her emotions. So because of the fact that the two of them were pretty much on par, say we were to give each of these 3 characters that I talked about so far like a number to their power level, we would put, for argument's sake right now, we just put LZ and Ziggy at the same level at 100. Now, considering the fact that, like LZ said, her and Shiki just a few months prior to that were almost on par with each other, and considering that more than likely Shiki's gotten a little bit stronger in between those months, I'd say he's currently sitting somewhere around between 75 and 85, not on their level just yet, but pretty damn close. So by that logic, it stands to reason that Shiki could easily defeat any one of them by himself, and I'm probably thinking that maybe if all 4 of them ganged up on him, then they would actually be a problem, but even then I still kind of doubt it, because I'm remembering back to what happened when Brigandine 1 and Killer 1 tried to fight off against Jaguar and how easily they were taken out. So because of that, I don't see Hero focusing on the fight between Shiki and Wizard, because that's who he's paired up against in this chapter. I don't see him focusing on their fight for more than like maybe another chapter or 2, and I really think that Shiki's going to be able to easily defeat him. Now, Wizard, I'm going to skip ahead to the fight between the two of them in this chapter, or like the part of the fight that they actually get in this chapter. Wizard actually had a pretty decent idea of playing on Shiki's emotions, because again, I don't think that Wizard can actually defeat Shiki power-wise, but by playing on his emotions, by bringing up Michael and all the robots from its original planet, and bringing up Witch, and trying to basically catch Shiki off guard so he can attack him, when he's caught off guard and when he's feeling his emotions about, all the friends he's lost over these past few years, that was actually a pretty smart plan, and I actually think that might have been Wizard's best play at defeating Shiki. Now, that being said, we don't know exactly what kind of abilities that Wizard has besides what he just did in this chapter, so maybe he might have something that might hold up Shiki for a little bit, but ultimately I think that if Shiki gets serious and activates his overdrive, he will pretty quickly defeat Wizard. And since I'm already on the pairings, I might as well go with the rest of them. So we have Rebecca going against Clown, who is actually the counterpart to Sister in the 4 Dark Stars. We have Wise going up against Killer, who's actually the counterpart to Hermit, which is actually fitting considering how close Hermit and Wise are to each other. And we have Homura going up against Brigandine Mark II, who is the counterpart to Valkyrie. Now, the way the fight ends up going down in this chapter is that they actually split everyone up. They don't all fight in that arena, only Brigandine and Homura are going to fight there. The rest of them actually get transported to different dimensions where they're technically still in the arena, but you can't interact with them or see them until their fights are over. So basically we have Clown transporting himself and Rebecca to like a circus area where she actually has to fight against them on a tightrope, while Pino and Happy are there in a cage. We have Wise and Killer in an area that's kind of like a schoolroom. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's definitely, kind of like a warehouse or schoolroom kind of design. Like I already said, Homura and Brigandine are going to be fighting in the arena because he doesn't like doing those kind of like dirty tricks. He just wants to have a pure fight of strength and see who's stronger at the end, which, I can respect. Brigandine so far seems like the most respectable member of the 4 Dark Stars. So I'm actually looking forward to a pretty even fight and a pretty intense fight between the two of them. And then we have Wizard, who, like I already mentioned, is trying to play on Shiki's emotions by bringing him back to his home planet, and trying to do pretty much the same thing that Ziggy did to LZ by having him interact with all his dead friends who died in the beginning of the series. And you know what, I gotta say, even though I am pretty sure that Shiki and Wizard's fight is going to end pretty quickly, I am actually looking forward to seeing exactly how the other 3 fights go down, and how Hero handles them, because, alright, it goes without saying why I'm interested in the Brigandine versus Homura fights, because the two of them are pretty similar with each other. They are pretty much just, like, I want to test out my opponent's strength, I want to fight against strong opponents. It's pretty interesting seeing exactly the two of them mirror each other in that way, so I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how they handle each other in a fight, and what Brigandine's abilities are. When it comes to Rebecca versus Clown, I'm really interested in seeing exactly what Hero does for their fight, because for the one hand, they're fighting on a tightrope, so I'm wondering how exactly Hero's going to have Rebecca manage doing that. On top of that, she can't use Happy, which is her main weapon. And even though she is more prolific when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, as we saw when she was fighting against Federal soldiers, I doubt she's actually fought against anyone at like Clown's level at this point. So she's going to have to rely heavily on her Ether Gear ability in order to survive this fight. But we've already been seeing that she has hangups about using the ability because of its connection to the chronophages. So right now, pretty much everything is stacked against her when it comes to this fight. And I'm looking forward to seeing not only what Clown could do when it comes to his abilities, but also how Hero gets her out of this jam. And on top of that, when we have Wise versus Killer, you would initially think that because of the fact that they're androids, that Wise should have the advantage with his Ether Gear ability to basically rework machinery. So if he lands just even one hand on Killer's body, he should be able to use his Ether Gear ability to just completely destroy him. But we don't know what Killer's ability is just yet, so it's going to be pretty hard for Wise to fight against him, especially in the area that Killer's transported him to, because of the fact that there doesn't seem to be a lot of machinery around him, which means that he's going to have to either rely on a new version of his Arsenal suit, because he seems to get a new version each time we see it, and he's also going to have to rely on his overdrive. Now, we do end up checking in with the other team in this chapter, and it's pretty much just picking up where we left off with them coming face to face with Dead and Crow, and it's pretty much just setting up Holly in that kind of like Gundam suit that she has, or that she's borrowing from the Eden Zero crew. And she's going to be using that to fight off against them by herself. Or not by herself, but she's going to be using that to fight against them. That's pretty much all we get from them in this chapter. Although I do want to mention that the Gundam suit, or I forget what the actual name for it is, but the armor that they actually give her to use against Dead and Crow has a pretty similar look to Witch. And because of that, a lot of people, when the leaks came out over the weekend, were saying that this confirms that Holly's going to end up joining the crew as the replacement for Witch. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't see that happening anytime soon. At most, I think that Holly's going to join them as like an ally. Kind of like how LZ is an ally to them, but, you know, separate from the crew. Although, that being said, there have been rumors that by the end of this arc, Wizard's actually going to end up joining the crew as a replacement for Witch. And the reason for that is because apparently during an interview that Hero had, I think at the launch of Volume 18 or something like that, he mentioned that Wizard would be replacing Witch. And I'm thinking that's most likely a mistranslation. I don't think he actually meant that Wizard's going to be joining the Eden Zero crew. What I think he meant was, as we found out in this chapter, that each of the 4 Dark Stars are kind of like the replacement or equivalent to each of the 4 Shining Stars. And that Wizard is the replacement for Ziggy for Witch. Now, that being said, if Wizard did end up joining the crew by the end of the arc, I wouldn't be upset by that. I'm just saying that I don't think it's going to end up happening based on what we know so far. But anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I really do hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below with your thoughts on the chapter, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.